I'm here at Fulham Boys School with Dave Smith, who is the head teacher of a school that a couple of years ago was one of the first in the country to take quite a dramatic stance on smartphones. And so we're looking forward to talking to him and hearing about his experience of leadership and some of the lessons that they're learning along the way. Dave, it's great to meet you. Thanks for having us in the school. It's great to be here. Now, so you've been head teacher at this school for how long?
This is my fourth year.
Four years as head teacher at this school. So the school has been open for 11 years. Yeah. And 2 years ago, I think, you hit kind of national headlines because you're the first state school to take quite a dramatic stance on smartphones, which is the subject of our conference this year. Mm-hmm. Why don't you just talk to us about how you arrived at the position that your school now holds and what that position is?
Yeah, so it's quite a long journey. So when I joined the school, we have very firm standards in lots of things. So it might be hair, uniform, appearance, all of those things. But phones was a bit loose. The rules with phones was that boys could have phones at school, but had to be switched off in their bags. But we all know the reality of what that is. You go to the toilet, look at your phone, you could sneaky look at a phone under a desk. I don't think that was good enough. Also, if a boy did have their phone, we'd confiscate it, it'd go to reception, and the parent would have to come collect it. So if you're a wealthy parent that doesn't really work, you can, or a stay-at-home mum, you just toddle down the road, get the phone, boy gets it back at the end of the day. If you're working class, suddenly you've got to wait 2 weeks for your mum to come pick up the phone. I just thought it was just a load of nonsense. And then I'm going through it with my own children. I'm looking at my own children growing up. My daughter's now 12, my son is 10. This was a few years ago. I'm thinking, I don't want them to have phones. I delayed my daughter going to school. So she should be in year 8 now, she is in year 7. I made that distinctive decision because actually I'm really keen on children being allowed to be children. They shouldn't have to grow up too quickly. And phones give them an access to a world that I don't want them to know. And I want to dictate what that world is to them. So that's my starting point. I had to wait for the government to give me some leeway. And about 2.5 years ago, they allowed schools really within proportion to do as they please. So as long as you could rationally say what you wanted to do, you could do it. I did some reading along my senior team of The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, which is it's a secular book, but it gives you all sort of the stats of phone use and the importance of it and the impact of young people. Surveyed students, got all the results I thought I would need anyway. I knew that 97% of our boys got their first smartphone when they were age 9 or age 10, and that's parents preparing them for secondary school. At least 40% have over 200 notifications a day. 38% have unrestricted access to their phones, which means they could use them anytime they wanted. Parents never knew the combination, all of those things. Also, just anecdotally, talking to some boys, when's the first time you watched pornography? They said, well, when I was in year 7 on a school trip at the Fulham Boys School. On a residential, and I just think that's just not good enough. You've got parents that are putting things in place at home to make sure their children can't access certain things, and suddenly they go on a school trip and they're addicted to pornography for the rest of their lives. I just think the evidence stacked up that actually we needed to do something about it. I didn't survey parents because I knew that parents would be worried about safety. And I thought there was a moral piece, this wasn't about safety. So we went cold turkey and we just sent out a letter and I invited parents in if they wanted to talk to me and it all just went boom. So we had coffee mornings, coffee afternoons, talked it through, and then we started the policy in September a year and a half ago. That policy ultimately means you can't bring a smartphone to school, you can't have smartwatches, you can't have wireless headphones, you can't bring it to school, can't take it home if you're in year 7 to 11. If you have a phone and we see at any point, we'll confiscate it for 6 school weeks. That doesn't include holidays. So for example, I took a phone in June and I didn't get it back till October. And it's wonderful. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I mean, there's probably no doubt, not without its challenges in implementing that. What have been some of the reaction from school, from parents and from students around this decision?
Yeah, a lot of it's just education. Like my job is to be an educator and it's about taking people on that journey. Jonathan Haidt's book is called The Anxious Generation and it's focusing on young people and how anxious they are around social media and the difference that makes to their lives. I would extend that. I think the parents are incredibly anxious. Like a parent who is used to using technology to help them bring up their children, because there are real advantages to it. Suddenly we've taken that away and they are terrified. You know, like, is my son going to be safe? How am I going to contact them? How are they going to pay for the bus? My son has educational needs. How's he going to access certain things? My son might have medical requirements. What are we going to do about it? And a lot of it is about re-educating and saying, actually, there are ways around all of those things. Not having a phone, at worst, is inconvenient. But not having a phone at best would totally change and transform the life of your child. And I think a lot of it is going through those things. Some parents will buy those tiles to track their children in their bags. so they know where their children are, but most parents haven't bothered. We've offered some parents counselling to help them, parenting courses to help them. Took 125 boys skiing in December. That's 18 hours on a coach to Italy, 18 hours back for a whole week. None of them had their phones. I had some parents that said, well, if I can't see my child on a screen every day, how do I know they're safe? And I said, we've got a problem. Like, there's a problem here. Like, when does this end? Like, the level of anxiety. Like, my daughter went to school today. I presume she got there. I don't know if she got there, but I haven't heard she hasn't got there. And I think she's okay. And she's better off in that way than me tracking her for the rest of her life. And it's a total shift. And that's before you even get to all of the damaging content that a young person could access on their phone.
Yeah, it was funny you mentioned the school trip to the skiing trip, which I read about that. I was really quite moved, actually. It was quite emotional to read. But something as simple as you saying in that article that I read that the boys were just playing cards and having conversations.
Yeah.
They could look each other in the eyes and they would go to sleep when they were tired. Like something that, 20 years ago was just very normal.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring to see someone take that kind of stance on it.
I think also young people want to talk. If you take away devices, they will talk to you. And the best people to talk to young people are older people that love young people. I firmly believe that we need to control the narrative. I want this school to dictate the narrative around young people, why your body matters, why your voice matters, why the colour of your skin is important, why you have value, how you're made in God's image. Like, we talk about that as a school all the time. The world is telling them what to believe. Why can't we tell them instead? We have to educate around sex before they're having sex. We have to educate around alcohol before they're having alcohol. We have to educate around the dangers of the world and smartphones and all the things that come with it before they have one in their hands. It's just logical. And I think if we were to go back with everything we know about phones and we had to make the decision, do we now give them to young people or do we not give them to young people? We would say, of course we don't give them to young people. The problem is they already have them and it takes bravery to take them away, but there's not an argument to give it to them at all.
I mean, because you talked about the impact, the negative impact that phones are having on particularly boys. This is a boys' school. You're obviously quite passionate about raising young men.
Yeah.
What are some of the particular dangers as you see it that affect young men and how phones exacerbate or make that problem worse, and that you're seeing the result taking phones away, you see that kind of mediated against?
I think people want to find their tribe. And young men in particular want to find their tribe. They want to find identity. The major issue with young people today is they don't have a sense of purpose. In fact, I think statistically on suicide notes of men, the reason for committing suicide is a sense of purposelessness. Like, what is my identity? Who am I? None of this makes sense to me. Having a phone can help you find your tribe. It helps you find your purpose. But the problem is it might not be a good one. And that could be your purpose through something quite nice and lovely, like football or something else, or it could be a lot more ingrained than that. We've got, we've had boys that have been sucked into eating disorders, suicidal thoughts, radicalisation, gang exploitation. And this is Fulham in West London, like nice Fulham in West London. Every single area and issue you see on the news exists in this school. And 99% of those things come through school. It just comes through phones. Child sexual exploitation, so whether that's sexting, grooming. We've had young men that think they had girlfriends, but actually 40-year-old men. All of those things happen to the boys in this school. And a lot of them have lovely parents who have brought them up in a lovely way. Many of them have Christian parents, and it's all going on underneath the surface. And what we want to do is say, actually, we want to create a sense of purpose and unity and an identity that you're a Fulham boy and you're part of this community and you've got really good friends and really good teachers and they're going to be your community for life. And we talk about it all the time. And I would say statistically, we have far less students involved in gang exploitation, involved in child sexual exploitation, involved in all of the sort of the negatives of society because they feel part of something. And I think biblically, you have to feel part of something. And God brings us together from a church perspective. But obviously, a school is not a church. You need to create that identity. But having phones is just a hindrance.
Being at school, I can't have my phone. Once you get used to it, it's easier. But at the start, it was definitely a struggle. Some of the good things and some of the bad things that my phone brings to my life is good things. Well, I can talk to my friends and if I want to go out, I can tell them, let's go out. And bad thing is that sometimes you can be shown things that maybe you're not ready to be seen yet, or told things that you don't want to be known. Some of the ways I stopped trying to be addicted to my phone is going out. If I'm ever in my house and I'm watching TV or on my phone, I'll be like, maybe it's time to get a fresh air, or even something small like going out and walking my dog. It's just to get my mind off something else.
On the bus home, I used to just sit on my phone watching videos and stuff, but now I socialise and talk with my friends more. That's definitely something I like. I definitely think phones can be addictive. To try and stop me from doing that, I focus on doing my homework a lot of the time and just schoolwork, because once you get it done, you can do whatever you'd like. One good thing about smartphones is obviously you can communicate with your friends, your parents, everything. You can also have fun on your phone, watching videos, social media, playing games. Cons, definitely there's a lot of bad things you can see on there. Kids are like going out less and less because they want to be stuck to their phone, and I definitely think that's a con.
I was here at the school when they introduced the ban last year, so I had a year of not having phones, and it's quite the change. I think mainly with a lot of people and with myself, the challenges were getting to school and kind of looking at when the bus is coming or when trains are coming or when different things are occurring. That was like a big change. I think there's like a handful of positive changes, because you stop having that habit of always being on your phone and kind of looking at it constantly. You learn to rely on it less, and your phone kind of becomes kind of like a secondary thing that maybe you'll check at the end of the day because you might have some important emails or like a message or something, and you want to catch up with some friends. But other than that, it just becomes like something you forget about a lot more. Before the phone ban, I spent a lot of time on my phone, and it was quite distracting from just my life in general, and I'd often put it above kind of reading the word or just engaging with God and kind of prayer. And then recently I've been like putting my phone aside more, and it's been allowing me to kind of spend more time with God, spending more time kind of reading the Bible. And I think that's a really important thing. And I think for a lot of people, your phone kind of controls a lot of your time. It becomes kind of this idol that you kind of spend a lot of time looking to. And I know I definitely felt like that. I think I kind of spend way too much time on my phone and like disregard other things. I think this change is kind of very beneficial, and I think it's a really good thing for like young people.
I think one of the things that is needed in society is a change in some of the institutions that get the power to affect how we're raising people and creating communities, schools being one of them. So obviously as a leader in that industry, what are some of your kind of encouragements you give to other people in the same sector, in schools, but then also how would you like to see churches, families, youth groups start to take seriously, and what would be your advice to some of the people leading in those environments, whether homes or youth groups, etc.?
I think you have to research, you have to know your stuff. I don't think it'd just be superficial. I think the Bible is really clear, and that's a foundation, the standing point as a Christian, but also having secular research that comes alongside of that. Like the secular research on pornography is damning. You don't just need the Bible to convince someone that pornography is wrong. The world is saying pornography is wrong. You bring those two things together. And I think the temptation as a Christian is just say, oh, well, Jesus said this. But there is so much out there that demonstrates actually the reason Jesus says these things is because it is the right way. And when you look at true research, actually the right way combines with what Jesus has said. And I think that is really important. So to know your stuff. I think as a Christian, it's really important to work hard. Like you have no integrity if you don't work hard. You can't stand up in front of people and say, we need to change this, we need to do this, we need to sort something out if you have a reputation where you don't turn up on time and you don't meet your deadlines and you don't do the things you're meant to do. So do your job and do your job well, and don't let there be a circumstance where someone says, actually, why should I listen to you? Because you didn't do that. Yeah, and I think that's really important. And if you have integrity and you stand on the truths of Jesus, then be bold and say in a loving, kind way, I think this is right, I think this is wrong, and stand on the principles. Like it's just the principles of life, isn't it? If you think that lying is wrong, don't lie. If you think that having phones is an issue, if I gave my children phones at home and they were able to use social media, considering what I'm doing as a head teacher, there'll be no integrity whatsoever. I had to make a decision. If I'm going to do this and go public with it, this is what I have to do with my own children. I can't not do that. And I think my encouragement is work out what you believe in and stand on what you believe in and be consistent in what you believe in.
So your advice isn't necessarily everyone should get rid of social media and ban phones. It's just individuals need to lead based on their convictions and not be swayed from that.
Yeah. And I think that if you're telling someone this is what you should do, you need to make sure in your own life you are doing it as well. But there's been so many Christians that I've worked with that have wanted to be teachers, can want to change young people's lives, but they don't invest in being good teachers. And if you're not a good teacher, you've got no right to change someone's life. You become a good teacher. Yeah, you love them by helping them in their maths, their English, their science, their geography, whatever it may be. And you demonstrate to them, I'm here as a teacher to bless you because that's my job. And then through that over years, you've got an amazing opportunity to shape a young person at a really important time of their life. But that comes after you have shown them that you're really good at what you're doing. Like if you really want to invest in people's lives, it takes time. The disciples spent, was it 3 years with Jesus? And he's like the Son of God, and they still didn't understand him. Like, I'm not the Son of God, yeah? But the boys in this school spent 7 years with me, and I'm hoping after 7 years they see something in me. But that's because to start off with, they believe that I'm really good at my job, and that I stand on what we should do and how we should behave and all those things. And then subtly over time, I can be really proactive on, this is what I believe. Have you considered Jesus? Let's talk about these things. And I think particularly with young men, you can be really cards on the table, blunt. You know, if you've got a relationship with someone, I can sit with them over lunch. I could do it today, and I could say, what's your view on pornography? Most people say, oh my goodness, you can't ask that. Of course you can ask that, because like, a teenage boy would happily talk about it, nearly every single one of them. And I think like being bold enough to say, okay, I'm just going to talk, you're going to be really explicit. Like, you've just had this session on this, what do you actually believe in this? I sat on a ski lift in December on the ski trip, and I was sitting with a year 9 and year 10 boy, and asked them, did they have a girlfriend? One did, one didn't. And I said, oh, when do you think it's the right age to have sex? And that was the 4-minute chat before then we skied down the mountain. We could have just talked about the weather. But it's being proactive. Actually, I'm going to get the opportunity to say what I think. And they get the opportunity to see what they think. And then they can think about it as they ski down a mountain.
And it's great. It's even in that, like, asking questions of people is the best way to worm an idea into their mind, to start to challenge their thinking, because you can ask a question. It's not you preaching a sermon. It's you kind of just raising the thought. Have you considered this or considered that? And I love that approach to intentionality, the deliberate, like, I'm a follower of Christ. I believe Christ is not just the Son of God, but what he has to say is life-giving and good for all people. So let's look at how we can apply Jesus' teaching. And let's just come back to phones then. So is there not, or would there not have been, and no doubt people have said this to you, an argument for stricter moderation rather than complete ban, because there'll be a lot of people who say, well, hang on, there are some benefits to phones, obviously.
There's massive benefits. I mean, obviously I've got a phone in my pocket and I've got a smartwatch on, and like, I don't know what I'd do without my phone with my job, and that's always a challenge to me. But I would say that it's the same argument with AI. People talk about AI and how amazing it is, and look at the workforce of AI. Have they worked with an 11-year-old child? My son needs to learn how to read and write really well. When he can do that, if he can do that, then maybe he'll be able to use AI to help him in the workforce to do certain things. But you need to have a real grasp of the basic understanding and principles of something before you use an incredible tool to help you. My spelling is worse now because of spell check. It's just worse. There are some words I don't think I know how to spell, like I used to know how to spell, because it just corrects it for me. And they're just really sort of basic examples. There's massive advantages of phones. But also, if we're just looking at mental health of young people, the idea of being anxious, the idea of not knowing what's going to happen in the future, the idea of wanting something immediately, like the Amazon culture, you order it needs to be there the same day or next day, all of those things. Actually, we need to train young people to be resilient so they can handle life when things get thrown at you. Because then when you're an adult, things are really hard and you can't just solve them. And you need to learn how to solve things when you're younger, so you know how to solve things when you're older, and phones get in the way. And I think friendships are really important. Like, statistically, young men, 3% 10 years ago said they didn't have a close friend. 15% now said they don't have a close friend. Why don't they have close friends? Because they're stuck on a device. They don't have a close friend. And actually, friendships are really important. They're really important. And how do we invest in those things? And how do we make sure that young people have the tools that they need? But phones are a massive advantage. Technology is a massive advantage. But, you know, we talk about this all the time. Fire is good, but don't give it to a young person. Sex is good, but you don't give it to a young person. Alcohol is good, don't give it to a young person. Phones are fantastic, but they get in the way. Let's control the worldview and then say, do you know what? Over time, we're going to let you run with it.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's adults like you, parents, taking responsibility for the leadership that God has entrusted to them to actually care for and raise young people. I think for a long time we've just thought, well, young people, they're like mini adults, they can do what they want, right? They look grown up once they hit 14. Let's let them do what they want. Kind of last question then, I guess, is I know from what you've said before is that you have received some significant pushback from some people. Yeah. You've been spat at by at least one parent. Yeah. As someone then who's obviously got strong convictions, how do you manage to not be too affected by or thrown off course by opposition when it comes? What would be your advice to how to keep a soft heart towards people, but clear convictions before God on how to lead and how to lead with courage?
I think you have to take a step back sometimes. Obviously, people are people. I wouldn't want you to see every reaction I've ever had with someone. And there'll be loads of times where I've got it wrong. And there'll be parents that have got it wrong with me. But there's parents that get it wrong with me because deep down, they love their child passionately and they believe my approach is wrong. I'm also loving their child passionately and I believe that their approach is wrong. Yeah, so we're both in the same point. We both love their child. So I have to come back to the point, okay, you're doing this because you really believe that I am ruining something for your child. I need to try and demonstrate to you over time that that is not the case. But we start with the same principle that you love them and I love them. Problem is love is subjective. Yeah, their view of love might be different from my view of love, and I need to consistently follow that over time. Every parent that has been in opposition over this issue, I would say that over time has come round to it, to at least to the perspective of saying, I could agree to disagree because I can see the big picture. Yeah, the majority have said, actually, I've also seen my child grow up and realize, actually, I'm glad they're here with these explicit rules because it's making a difference to their lives. I've had parents come here because they can't get their phones off their children and they've asked me to ring their children when they're sitting around this table. So I ring the phone goes off, take the phone off them, they've lost it for 6 weeks.
Wow, so they're on your side. They're
Yeah,
backing
because I just think that ultimately, like, my view is that let's do this together. Yeah, I'm a head teacher, I'm a Christian, I'm a husband, I'm a father. The hardest thing has been a parent. Just the hardest thing has been a parent. There's no rule book. It's really hard. Schools need to work with families and what is the best thing to do. And if a family is struggling with it, just blame the school. But make me the bad guy. But in the end, everyone wins. I'm totally fine with that.
That's wonderful. And where do you get how do you get and cultivate your strong sense of just identity to be able to withstand opposition and people disagreeing, disliking you, and some of the tough decisions you've got to make? What would be some of your advice to people who struggle with that?
Find the things you love as well. Obviously, I love my job, but we're talking about phones here, but we're not talking about the ski trip. Or in 2 years' time, I hope we go to Borneo with a group of boys. The work we've done with YouTubers, where we've had 700 million views. When we shut the school last year, drove everyone up to Birmingham and watched us win the English national finals. Like all of the extra things we do, like I go in the playground, talk to the boys. I love them, absolutely love them. And actually, there is highs and lows in any occupation. And yes, when there are lows, it can be really, really difficult. But there are so many amazing things out there within every single job that you can find that you really love. And if you're in a workplace and you think, I hate everything to do with it, leave it, go and find another one. Be a teacher, we need loads of them.
That's perhaps a great way to leave it, isn't it? Be a teacher. Let's make this an advert for teaching. I'm just working with young people, investing them, loving them. Just as we finish, anything else on your heart or mind that you'd love to leave us with?
I just think like there is this viewpoint that with young people, like what are we going to do with them? Like their world is different to the world that we had. Like you can feel sorry for them to some extent. They're amazing. Young people are absolutely amazing. We've got such an opportunity to invest into them. Our ceiling will be their floor. The best that we experience, they will experience even more. And what an opportunity to shape their lives, to change the world. It's amazing, and God gives us that opportunity.
Amazing. Thanks so much for talking to us today, Dave.
Okay, thanks for coming.